Let's deepen the discussion now on the aftermath of the protest, the End SARS protest, with the lawyer, Dr. Asukwo Mendie Archibong. He joins us now via WebEx. Great to have you join us on Newsday.
That's why it's much pleasure to me. Glad to see you.
Great. Let me begin by asking you, bearing in mind that governors in Nigeria do not control the rules of engagement of the military and by extension do not have control over them, what options were available to Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos, who says the military coming to Lekki Toll came to him as a shock?
Well, let me put it this way. It should not even have gotten to that level. The very first thing he could have done would have been to identify potential or actual leaders of the End-SARS protest and then begin the process of negotiation or mediation with them, and then act as an intermediary with the federal government, thereby pacifying things. Now, we move back from there a little bit. The other thing he could have done would have been to set up an inquiry, a commission of inquiry, to find out what has actually been going on in terms of police brutality, in terms of the activities of SARS in the state. And this probably would have pacified the End-SARS now protesters. With the fact that the governors don't control the commissioners of police or the police force and the military to some extent in their states, they still do exercise some level of control over the persons that act as the lead persons in the police force and the lead persons in the military, in the sense that they do have a security cabinet, they do have a security committee, in which these persons are also members of that security committee, and therefore communicate regularly with them in terms of the state of security in the state that they govern. So some kind of information would have been relayed back to Governor Sanwo-Olu in terms of the security situation in the state, and he would have acted. He also did have the bully pulpit. By the bully pulpit, I mean the ability to speak out on issues that are affecting the state immediately. He could have spoken out and said, listen, our children are protesting, and so far this protest has been largely peaceful, and we do not want the military to come on our soil. We are going to mediate and speak with the young ones and find out what we can do to mediate and remedy the situation that they are crying out about. And this would have given the military some level of, some form of pause in terms of deploying onto the streets of Lagos. It would have given the police some level of ability to maneuver. And finally, he could have gone out there with the police force and spoken with the young ones and just been in the middle. Look, he should have been in the middle to stop the killing of the young ones. If they had seen him on the ground before this, most likely the police force or the military, in this instance, the military would have shown a greater level of restraint. He also could have simply said, look, the military by constitution generally cannot and should not be deployed on in civilian conflict. And really, there was no conflict. There was just a peaceful protest where people were saying, we are tired. We are tired of being killed by SARS. We are SARS police officers. We are tired of being harassed by SARS police officers. We want to have an environment in the Federation of Nigeria where we can grow and continue to build ourselves individually and collectively as young people, as the leaders of tomorrow in this federation. He could have done a lot more than what I have just enumerated, because he also does receive security reports. And with these security reports, he could have had options available to him to preclude any of these things from happening. I think it is an unpleasant excuse to say there was really nothing I could do, and also to add that there were forces beyond his control. Really, he is the chief security officer of the state.
All right, Dr. Asukwo. The president, while urging, saying that Buhari's government is committed to extensive police reforms, said 13 states that were enumerated have set up the judicial panels of inquiry as resolved by the National Economic Council to address the questions of redress and justice for victims of police brutality. What's your sense of them going ahead almost immediately to set up this 13 states set up this panel of judicial panels of investigation, of inquiry?
I wish this had been done much before now, but I appreciate them doing that. I have actually taken a look at some of the states that have set up these panels, and it's not representative of the persons that are actually affected. You're getting persons that are so far distant from the NSAS protesters in terms of age group. You're getting people in their 50s and 60s and 70s to be members of this panel to address situations that affect people between the ages of 16 to 30. It's really not going to bring about any meaningful resolution. And when you speak about setting up the panels in the 13 states, yes, 13 states, yes, I do appreciate that, but it is really rather too late for the parents, for the mothers, for the fathers that have lost their children, for the brothers and sisters that have lost their siblings, for husbands and wives that have lost their spouses. It's too late for us Nigerians who have lost talented young ones who were budding and were really ready to blossom. But I do applaud the state, although it's a little bit late. Well, let's see how we can improve on this judicial panel. It is a step in the right direction, but it is definitely not a dispositive step that will be used to address the situation that we find ourselves in. What I would rather prefer would be that we have a holistic approach to resolve this issue. No matter what the states try to do with the judicial panel, they can only give remediation, they can only give compensation. They really cannot reform the police force because, of course, as you and I do know, the police force is under the exclusive control of the Commander-in-Chief of the Nigerian Army and Nigerian forces, and that is President Muhammadu Buhari. So the reform of the police is the issue. Compensation, yes, that's okay for the people that have been victims of the police brutality. But what we really want, even with the compensation, is that the police force, the military, the forces that are supposed to serve and protect us. Let's not forget DSS, the State Department of State Security Services. Let's not forget them. They are also part of this. The EFCC, ICPC, they are all part of the security apparatus that do affect us on a daily basis. They need to be reformed. They need to be reformed in such a manner that they actually serve us.
Okay, the military has labeled the news of the incident at the Lekki toll gate as fake news. What are your thoughts on this? And is there a role for the Attorney General of Lagos in this, just as the state government or governor in person has said the state would be escalating the situation and investigating?
Well, there is no immunity for any military personnel in any state if they carry out a crime. And the killing of Nigerians, the killing of anyone by the military, no matter what it is, without a conflict, is a crime. We have the one thing about what the NSAS protesters did was in the middle of the hell of bullets, they were still taking pictures and they were still recording who were those shooting at them, who were those killing them, and who were those harming them. We have sufficient evidence in the public domain. We have sufficient evidence in private hands that can be used to prosecute these military officers, that we can be used to prosecute policemen that actually killed Nigerians. We can't just stop at that. We also have evidence that can be used to prosecute the hooligans that took over this peaceful protest and brought about a high degree of violence and killing and looting and burning of property. So there is sufficient evidence for the Attorney General of the state of Lagos to use to proceed with the criminal prosecution of these individuals that killed innocent and unarmed peaceful protesters at Lekki and also at Lagos at large. And I hope he begins this process. This will serve as a lesson. It will serve as a dampener to any military officer, to any force person who believes that they can harm Nigerians and go scot-free. No, it just can't happen. It won't happen anymore. So I encourage the Attorney General of the state of Lagos to proceed with Godspeed, to proceed expeditiously in the prosecution, in identifying these individuals and prosecuting them and bringing them to justice. All right,
Dr. Asukwo, before I get to what the Vice President said on prosecution, by the way, the NEC, that's of the judicial panel that is set up by states, is supposed to be all-inclusive. Students are supposed to be there. CSOs are supposed to be there. Student leaders are supposed to be there, just to add that. But then let's talk about reforms, police reforms. The president in June 2019 signed a bill establishing the Police Trust Fund to mobilize additional funding for the welfare. I have quite some, even if we don't get you answering them on the other side, you will get to answer them. So that's one. The president also, in 2018, approved an increase in police salaries, and the police personnel budget has since risen from 288 billion naira to 417 billion. And then, of course, he has equally approved the rollout and funding of new community policing initiative. What's your sense of all this, talking about police reforms? Also the Nigeria Police Act was signed in 2020. So what's your sense of all this concerning police reforms? All right, glad to have you back. You're still watching News Day here on Arise News, and we still have Dr. Asukwo Mendie Archibong with us. In case, just to juggle your memory a wee bit, I was trying to bring out the fact that in 2019, a police trust fund was established by the president. In 2018, salaries was increased from 288 billion to 417 billion. That's about 45% increase. And then there's funding for police initiative. And then in 2020, the new Nigerian Police Act was signed, a comprehensive one in decades. What's your sense of these in relation to police reforms, the Nigerian police force?
When you talk about the police reforms and the impact, let's just go back a little bit in time. If you do recall, we used to have the policemen that were called kill and go. Do we still have policemen with that kind of mindset? Yes, we do. In 2011, we also did complain about the conduct and behavior and the actions of some policemen. Fast forward to 2020, do we still have the same kind of complaint that we used to have? Yes, we do, in terms of corruption, in terms of brutality, in terms of harassment, in terms of killings, extrajudicial killings. So in 2010, we used to complain about the state of the police barracks, where the policemen, these are people that carry arms and are supposed to protect us, live. Do we still have the state of the barracks, police barracks, exactly the same as it was in 2010 and in 2000? Yes, probably even worse. Would any of us want to live, just think about it, would any of us want to live in a police barracks? Let's just upgrade ourselves to one of the very best police barracks in the future. Would anyone in Nigeria want to live in that police barracks? No. Would we generally say that the least paid police officer, the one that interacts generally with us on a daily basis on the street, the ones that come to put their lives on the line when armed robbers attack us at our homes, at our place of worship, or at our place of business, would we want to have that level of salary that they do have in protecting our lives? No, it's just too small. Look at the uniforms of the policemen. Do they look kept? No. We still have complaints of police that they are the ones still buying their uniforms, buying their belts, buying their boots, buying their berets, they are buying almost everything for themselves to appear neat and to appear in an orderly manner in order to be able to protect us. Now, step up a little bit and look at the vehicles in which they drive around. And these vehicles are supposed to come quickly to our aid or pursue armed robbers or violent elements in the society when some form of violence erupts. Look at the state of the police vehicles. Is it a vehicle that we would be proud to be seen in? Most likely and generally, no. Those vehicles are backup vehicles that sometimes you see pictures of them pushing the vehicles before they would start. It's just not a force that we are proud to be associated with. It's not a force that has changed. No matter the policy decisions that have been made, no matter the reforms that has been put into place, the challenge here is that there's been no political will, there's been no desire, there's been no gumption to actually execute all of those reforms that we have been inundated with. Well, there was a reform to the 2020, there was a reform in 2018. Where are the reforms? The reforms are not evident when you look at the police stations. Go to the police station, still collecting money to release people. You go to the police station, you still see that the police stations are not generally a place of joy. So what do we now need to do? We now really need to sit down with interested parties.
Thank you very much, Dr. Archibong, there for your contributions. Much appreciated.